So welcome to another episode of Jeff Smith's Garage. So this is going to be a little bit different. I watched a video that my buddy John Causey did on some tech things that he was talking about, and he came up with a bunch of really cool tools. And I thought, I could do that. I've got some homemade tools that I've made, so I thought I'll just share what I've learned, and maybe that'll help you out too. So I've got a collection of stuff here. We'll go through each individual one, and maybe you'll pick up on something that you might be able to use. Okay, so for a little tip on lapping valves. So a friend of mine, Don Barrington, runs a machine shop in Santa Clarita, and he showed me this little trick that he actually learned from another engine builder, but it's a cool little idea. So lapping valves, you know how this works. You have lapping compound, and you put a little stuff on the valve in 3 or 4 places. This is the standard way to do it, right? Then you drop the valve in, then take your little valve lapping tool, stick it on there, and then do this by hand. Well, as you can imagine, it takes a while to do all this. So what if you did this a little quicker and used a drill motor, stick it on there. There in about 5 seconds, just lap that valve. A lot faster way to go. If you like doing it by hand, that's perfectly okay, but this is a lot faster. So if you work on carburetors, it's kind of clumsy to have it sitting on a bench here because you can't really open the throttle. The linkage hits the bench. So this is actually a plate for like an Edelbrock intake manifold. And all I did was put 4 studs on it, bolt it down like that, drop the carburetor on. Now you've got a nice solid work surface. Pull the bowls off, do whatever you need to do. The throttle linkage will work. Works really nicely. This has been in my shop for 25, 30 years. I have no idea where it came from, but it's actually 5.5 inches in diameter, which is the diameter of this, so that you, for like a Holley carburetor, turn it upside down. Now you can work on the carburetor. This would probably work this way with a piece of 4-inch PVC, for example, if you want to try and do it. Or if you can find a piece of aluminum that's that size, it works really well for turning the carburetor upside down. So now let's talk about LS motors. On LS engines, unlike small block Chevys and big block Chevys, the front timing cover does not have alignment pins. So you have to align the cover to the hub on the balancer in order so it doesn't leak, because otherwise it's going to be off center. So Kenny Duttweiler actually suggested this to me. So what I did was took an old truck balancer, that's what this is, an LS truck balancer, and you can see the 3 hubs on there, the 3 legs. I just cut them off and then sand them off easy, and so that they're nice and smooth so you don't cut your hand, and then took a sanding drum and honed this out until this will fit nicely, because otherwise it's a press fit. This pops right in. Now that will align your cover. So what you do is you put the cover on, keep the bolts loose, slide this in, tighten the bolts up, and you're ready to go. So if you're working on small block or big block Chevys with aluminum heads and you want to check valve lift, how can you do it with a magnetic base? So just real simple. Piece of 1/4-inch steel plate, drill a couple of holes, stick it on here, magnetic base fits to this, dial up your dial indicator, and you're ready to go. Okay, everybody uses brass freeze plugs, right? Because they don't rust. But what most people do, and what I used to do, is just drive them in with a socket, right? You just put the socket on there, take it, hammer it in. One day on the dyno, we're out at Kenny Duttweiler's, and pull the motor up on the dyno. We're not even using the pressurized cooling system. All of a sudden, one of these freeze plugs popped out. And what he showed me was that when you drive this in with a socket, because this material has gotten thinner over the years. In the old days, you could drive it in with a socket and they would stay in place. But with the new ones now, they're thinner material because this is more expensive material. Then what happens when you drive with a socket, it pulls the edge in. And now you've got a very thin sealing surface and they very easily pop out. So what I did was go to my machinist and have him make me a simple little piece of aluminum here, machined down to fit just inside this, pop it on there, and just drive it in. The mistake we made was that we made this almost exactly the right size as the inside of this of a big block, and then I have this tool so you could turn it around and do a small block as well. Problem is that we made this too small, so you need to probably make this about 0.1 of an inch smaller than the inside diameter of your freeze plug. Then when you drive it in, it doesn't grab the tool and then you can't get it out. So, but that's the way you should do it, because The concept is if this pops out, let's say you're at a top speed event, you're going 150 miles an hour, all of a sudden freeze plug pops out because the block is expanded, everything's expanded, and it dumps, what, a gallon of water onto your back tires. Bad deal. This will prevent that from ever happening. Okay, let's say you're about to install your flex plate or flywheel, and you throw the bolts on there, and then you got to get a screwdriver over here to hold it in place, because otherwise the crankshaft just turns when you're trying to tighten the bolts. And it's really clumsy, and if you're like me, you'll end up cutting your finger off or something. So what I did was I made this simple piece of angle iron and then another adapter down, cut this away so for drill the 2 bolt holes for the bell housing. Take me about probably 10 minutes to make this, weld it up real fast. Now this leg comes down and intersects with the tooth of the flywheel. Now we have essentially a flywheel lock. Now we can go ahead and torque the bolt. And then as a little tech tip, once you're done torquing the bolts to whatever the spec is, always back your torque wrench off. That way it doesn't kill the springs. If you let this thing sit in your toolbox with the spring compressed, you'll lose 10 to 15 to 20% accuracy within a couple of months. So let's say you want to degree your small block or big block Chevy, and the first thing you want to do is once you get your degree wheel on, is to establish top dead center. So a simple little way of making a piston stop, I've just got a piece of 1/4 inch aluminum here, drilled 3 holes, and then a bolt in the center. You'll use this as the piston stop. And so then what you do is bolt this on, and I just used 2 head bolts with lock nuts, so I didn't have to spend any money on custom bolts, and then spin the engine over one direction till the piston hits the stop, and then mark it on your degree wheel, turn it around the other direction till it hits again, and halfway in between is top dead center. This is accurate information, because if you don't have top dead center correct, nothing else that you degree will be accurate. So this is the best way to do it. If you like what we're doing here at Jeff Smith's Garage, just ring the bell, subscribe, tell your friends, and we'll keep cranking out these videos for you.